Chapter 9. The balance between action and non-action. Living subjectively in an objective world. Flow, interface, and healing. One sits quietly in prayer, or, using another analogy, one sits in the great cathedral thinking of a symphony. No healing is necessary in that inner space between the symphony and the thought of the symphony, is there? No imperfection there. Inevitably, the healing appears necessary out there in the body, the concert hall or cathedral, in the people, places, and things, world of linear time. Something out there, usually this body or that one, needs something to come to it or go from it. Health to come, discomfort or insufficiency to go away. Well now, if we agreed that healing has to do with the out there, even when we believe we understand that out there is really within this awareness, and that the feelings of joy and well-being are always here within awareness, then we are ready to understand something more about healing. The cathedral illustration. Reader, imagine a lovely cathedral, ancient and awesome. You and I sit alone in the middle of it. Long slanting rays of light from the great windows cutting through the darkness inside. Everything is bathed in mysterious color and silence. Not a sound or motion do we notice anywhere. But if we had the eyes of an eagle or a barn owl, we would see many little church mice scurrying to and fro, scampering silently into and out of little hidden places of the great cathedral. Unseen by us, some mice have discovered the picnic basket we left by the door. Our illnesses and anguishes are like those church mice. They come into our affairs uninvited and unwelcome. They eat their fill of our treasured picnic cake and go scampering on their way. Sometimes they do not go on their way, but linger as an ache or pain or fear deep in our sense of things. Some of those aches and pains are progressive and terminal, we are told. Those are the most odious church mice of them all. And there is more. Outside stalk the great rats of starvation and poverty in the world. Another huge rat of violence and war comes and goes from view. Alongside runs a rat pack of disharmony, dissension, and distrust, joined with those of guilt, age, and loneliness. Perhaps as hateful as any are the great rats of confusion and suspicion, fed by the ever-growing, all-encompassing glut of untested information and opinion. The cathedral, the body that sits in it, and the grounds just outside are our own subjective world, you see. It is a subjective world within the awareness we are. Now, imagine sitting there in that lovely cathedral, unmindful of the church mice, mind filled with naught but the grand music of the spheres, or mind filled with the thoughts of Godhead and its allness. Prayer, meditation, and contemplative practices are intended to end our thoughts about the body, the mice, the cathedral, and its gardens, and they do. But at best, those activities are temporary palliatives. Now suppose I asked what Godhead and its allness have to do with church mice and rats. In our metaphysical phase of ongoingness, we proclaim in all earnestness that there are no real church mice or rats in all existence. In the perfection of all, there isn't a single real evil. God is all and only, we say. There can't be God and something else, despite the fact that there still appears to be God and all those rats and mice of evil as well, which, of course, other people believe, but we, as enlightened students of truth, do not. Ah, so. Then what is the ache or pain? Unreal, you say? Yes, and because it's unreal, it should go away, right? Yes, it should go away. But it persists, you say. Not enough love in my affairs, not enough understanding, not enough faith. I haven't demonstrated it yet. Oh, then there are church mice in the choir loft. There just appear to be. They are part of the seeming. Then you want a part of the seeming to go away. Oh, yes, I want all the seeming to go away. I want a healing. I confess I want a healing because I am tired of this appearance. I am physically tired of the constant picture of time's relentless march toward decay. I am tired of growing old and tired of wondering why it is happening, even when I know that time isn't real and I have been denying it for so long. Denying the reality of appearances hasn't done the least bit of quantum good in the tangible world as far as appearances go. A demonstration here or there, a saint here or there, who has done something in a small circle in a small pond. But the world outside continues its acid rain and terrorism. Why? Objectivism says the world is full of church mice who need to be told about God. Subjectivism says the church mice do not exist. They are not real. Objectivism, carried to its extreme, has us running all over the cathedral, mesmerized by the mice, and accomplishing nothing but a scattering of them. Subjectivism, carried to its extreme, has us sitting quietly in the middle of the cathedral, meditating, praying, mind-blanking, and so mindful of God, we never notice the mice. But while we deny their seeming, they seem to go right on eating our tangible picnic. The Zen-like absolutist may disclaim the reality of the mice, and perhaps seldom be bothered by them, but at the end of the long day he too must stir himself from his reveries, leave the quiet of the cathedral, and go outside into the darkness where the rats are larger than the mice. We find our best efforts at God mindfulness and all our proclamations of the indivisible allness and onlyness of Godhead taken all the way to its limits of absolutism are not enough to preclude our having to go to the bathroom, feed ourselves, or tend our own appearances of age and debility. One can be 100 years old and still not know the answer to the primary question, why the appearances of sin, sickness, and death, if God is good and God is all. In those days when time becomes heavy again, or precious, who will say the world's objectivism was any worse than our grand metaphysical subjectivism, or that subjectivism is further along than what seems to be its opposite? Metaphysicians will not like the following observation, but it is objectively true. In the heavy years of age, more anguish is lived in the metaphysical community than in the religious and scientific community. Why? Neither the religionist nor the scientist feels guilty for not knowing enough about God to heal himself. Solution? The balance. The divine balance. Here is yet another mystery. Between the two, objective, subjective, is one, greater than either, separately, and the source of both. The child within us has known this all the while. Between the central idea of subjectivism and the central idea of objective religion is the balanced activity of the child. The child runs up tangibility's Deshaun in perfect balance, living his subjective idea in the objective world. From the Han Discourses. Damn it, Han, those are just words, the soldier thundered. What am I supposed to do in the cathedral? Be practical, man. Tell me what to do to get rid of the great rat grind of fear in my belly. What is the balance I am to live in the world? Tell me directly so I can understand and have my healing. Ah, so, Han sighed, ah, so. Ah, so, my foot, tell me. Tell me if you can. Han smiled, understanding such exasperation and its honesty. Ah, so, he said again. Then he added, the balance we all need is attained when we complete the interface. At the evening fire, the soldier grumbled. He didn't say a damn thing. He made another mystery. Complete the interface, he said. What in hell do those words do for my gut? He said nothing new. Oh, but he did, said Mary. You should have stayed to listen. The following week, Hans said, we are impatient. We leave our nets too soon. We throw our books away before we know what they say. We leave our schools before we know what they teach. The old nature of us is fooled by words. The child of us understands words and their importance. Yes, we are impatient, especially in the Western world. We want the fruit before the tree has grown. We want the truth right now before we've lived it because we've been told by subjectivism that we are the truth already. The problem lies in the fact that subjectivism alone does not speak to the balance. It knows nothing of the divine balance. However, even that is exactly as it should be here in the objective world. During the time we examine subjectivism, we turn away from objective reality as we are supposed to. Subjectivism is the study of the subjective idea or image and is itself half the balance. It can't be expected to address the objective half beyond saying it isn't as important as it seems to be or claims to be. Ah, but how do we come to know balance and know we know it? How else but by living the imbalance of either religion or metaphysics, or both? How else can one really know about balance? In the line of things, one learns what is beyond the point by passing the point. Can one pass the point without being there first? We pass the imbalance of subjectivism exactly as we pass the imbalance of objectivism, by moving on to the balance of everything. If we do not topple off the narrow ledge of things, the imbalance of religion and metaphysics leads us straight to balance. It seemed a big if in my own affairs, but I finally found it, or it found me. Now, having found it and lived it, I can tell of it. But what has this to do with healing? Let us return to the cathedral. Beethoven and the church mice. Imagine how much stir we make in the silent cathedral as we sit there thinking of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. We sit and think of the crashing cymbals, the pounding drums, and not a church mouse runs away. If one did, we'd be surprised. Don't we make a great to-do when prayer is answered? Why would we do so if it weren't unusual to us? But what happens if, while thinking the rhythm of the symphony, we begin drumming our fingers and tapping our foot to the rhythm? The change is enormous. The whole place echoes with the drumming. We have bridged the gap between the melody inside and the tangible scene outside. We have completed the internal interface. The worldly scene, in time and space, takes note, and the church mice scurry to cover. Why does the religionist, especially the metaphysician, believe his tangible scene at hand will respond if he sits reading his book, silently thinking of Beethoven's symphony? God hears in silence and rewards openly, you say. God hears the silent meditations of our heart. No question about that. But God gives us a way to clap our hands to the divine rhythm so the tangible scene responds quickly. And would one even be thinking about healing unless something were amiss in the tangible scene to turn our thoughts to God and the truth? To expect a healing or an improvement in our daily affairs just because we pray as the world prays and read a lot is about as effective as pulling a lanyard on a mental cannon and expecting the crows to squawk and fly. We think God, and as we do, the equation flows outward through our fingers into the tangible scene where the crows are. We think God, and the equation flows, telling us what to do about the church mice and the corn in the field. Silent prayer, or any other kind of meditation and contemplation, without action in the world is like asking God to end our thirst without our drinking water. Metaphysicians are grandly insistent that the truth will work in their affairs, but inevitably they give God a personal condition to meet. I want God to do it provided it doesn't happen through the efforts of a doctor, materia medica, or any action beyond prayer. That is, will happily accept infinite Godhead's intervention provided God does it the way we think it should be done. Spiritual medicine, okay, but not material medicine. Please, God, take care of my lumbago, but do it my way. God, heal my cancer, but without the help of men. God, end my hunger, but without my having to eat the food in front of me. God, help me understand the truth, but do it in this and such a manner. God, let me demonstrate my church full of interested people again, but without my having to invite anyone to attend. You see, God, I don't want to hear a single dualistic term because I've been told how dualism is the cause of all problems, and I want the words of truth to come to me just the way I want them, gently, very gently. Reveal the truth to me, Lord, but it must come through the pages of the Bible. If it isn't in the Bible, it isn't the truth. Help me, God, but do it so I don't have to do anything more for my world. The body isn't real, but please heal this chunk of unreality, God. End my thraldom with drunkenness, Lord, but I'm really not enthralled with it, I don't think. So, let me drink a little more wine to prove it. Poor God, what fools we mortals and metaphysicians be. There are subjectivists and subjectivists. There are those who make a start in religion and metaphysics, and then there are the really earnest people who don't stop over long in the comfortable corners but keep going. The religious subjectivist, the metaphysician and philosopher who doesn't complete the interface from mind to tangibility and from tangibility back to mind is walking in a void of voids, allowing judgmentalism to destroy his inmost happiness while disclaiming the reality of matter. Moreover, he finds himself unable to do anything about the inescapable unreality that sticks to him like glue. These are the good but misled people who have stopped in absoluti. In the absolute mode, one wears blinders to his knees. The disclaimer that matter's reality is not the final subjectivism we are called to understand and live. Matter is not what it seems, but what it is to be understood and not denied. The real subjectivists are those who have found the simple child of themselves. These are the metaphysicians who enjoy the inclusive vistas of Metadelphia, but aren't trapped there. The child, with his journal, leads us straight through the heart of Calvinopolis, St. Doxy, and Metadelphia, even through the prisons of absoluteness itself, through every closed door and through the thick walls of religion and metaphysics. The child within takes us on to the balance, which we maintain as we hurry up the mountain, living our subjectivism objectively in the world. That balanced walk takes us along the narrow pathway of confirmation where we see the high ideal beginning to be perceived and lived in the world of men. Somewhere near the peak, we and the child become one in actual living fact, not just in metaphysical profession. We are given confirmation. In a new name, we reign over the all in all that exists within. That reign isn't a passive sitting back to enjoy the fruits of nirvanic bliss or subjective joy, but an active work in the world that elevates, heals, cleanses, inspires, and dissipates guilt, and in so doing explains the answers, the paradoxes of life. More, it puts wings on our feet and on the feet of those who see our light. Atop Dashan, one looks out at the world and sees it again, as did the Zen master who beheld the mountain again from the perspective of no mountain. This time, we stop our endless denial of matter's reality or existence and see matter for the confirmation of God it represents. We stop chattering like monkeys about the inability of words to speak of wordless ineffability and begin saying it. We begin to understand the paradoxes of human living, and perhaps, for the first time in our experience, we know what to do about them. More, we find ourselves with the ability and means to do something for our entire world, and we get off our butts and begin doing it. The journal we tend may seem to be only the smallest stirring in the cathedral. After all, how many mice scramble at the wiggle of a pencil? But soon we are drumming our fingers on the arm rail. Soon the sounds of our feet are rhythming the rhythm of the child's celestial sounds and are doing something in the cathedral and its gardens of mind. We are in this world to do something good for all mankind. The child of us holds the hand of all mankind, and as the world responds, the child knows it. The child, as you surely know by now, holds the hand of Godhead, and God knows exactly what we have perceived in the cathedral. The flow of the child's light pours from God through the tips of our fingers and from the words we speak. That flow is reflected back to us. delayed by time it seems, thence to return to source, bearing evidence of our effort. Either we live this equation or we don't. If we live it, we are alive. If we don't, we are yet sleeping in the light, and little time is left for us to awaken. The journal has been the means by which the me sense of the me has been aligned with the child of self, thence to be displaced by it. My journal has been my interface with God and man. Even now, those words are these words, and it can be exactly the same for the reader. All you must do is begin. See for yourself whether or not your own inmost thoughts don't begin to do wonderful things in your affairs. They will. No longer must the scholar, the psychologist, the minister, or the practitioner do the stirring vicariously for you. You will do it for yourself. This matter of our saving grace is not up to the government or the church, the philosophy or system. It is a matter that takes place between ourself alone and God. A 5-note chord that overcomes the discord of inertia. The first note, the search for balance, Han and Mary. Han said, "The old schools say our fall from grace is obvious. They teach that we are on the physical mountain, born into time and space. Not one of us is exempt. The new schools say the opposite. Time and space are unreal, they teach. Matter is unreal. Dashan's experience is only a dream." "The second group is correct," said the soldier. "Matter isn't real." "What is matter?" Han asked. "A spiritual world, God's perfect world, perfect God, perfect man in his sinless, unfallen state," the soldier answered confidently. "Ah, so," said Han. "How do you explain this moment as we sit here talking around the campfire? A moth just flew into the flame." "We are discussing God's reality, not the unreality of a moth," the soldier answered. Han mused. In a moment he asked, "Why do we discuss truth rather than something else?" The soldier answered quickly, "We learn there is no satisfaction in talking about the world's difficulties. Such talk turns to vanity and becomes a futile exercise." Han closed his eyes. He spoke softly. "Then, right here, as we discuss truth, reality, we have a choice to do this or go the world's way, talking of sin and its evil, advocating, as religionists do, that one climb the mountain to return to his birthright." The soldier nodded. "That's essentially what the old schools do." "Or," Han continued, "we can talk of our uprightness and sinlessness as the subjectivists do." "Yes," the soldier said. "Ah, yes," the old teacher smiled, eyes aglow. "And where do we make this choice to go one way or the other?" "Here and now, in front of the fire," the soldier answered, beginning to wonder where Han was leading him. "As you have said many times, Master Han, this moment has nothing to do with mortality and matter. Yet we all sit here before the evening fire." "Yes," the soldier agreed, "without thought of matter or sin at all." The village minister entered the conversation. "I sit here in front of the same fire, and despite all this talk of oneness and allness, I see a world born in sin and degradation from which it must repent. We have a difference of views here, not two worlds." "Ah, yes," said Han, "two views and many possible courses of action or non-action between. One view, looking at the shadows, calls for repentance. Another view, looking beyond appearances, speaks of guiltlessness, claims dominion, and calls itself the Son of God." Both views are here before the evening fire. But there is still another view, isn't there? The soldier and minister looked at one another, puzzled. There is an answer that transcends these two views. Han looked at the smallest image before the fire. Mary knows what it is, he said. The little lady spoke softly. Yes, the world has many views and countless actions. They are poles apart. The heart of us sees the middle ground, above them all. You are a heathen Buddhist, the minister shouted angrily. You don't understand your subjectivism, the soldier accused. Yes, Mary laughed, clapping her hands. I am everyone, and I am the entire mountain. With a bright smile, she added, I am even more than that. Han said, awareness includes all the possibilities. Our actions in the world are those that bind us together in harmony. Action is not intended to divide us into right and left, objective and subjective, truth and error, real and unreal, prophet and false prophet. The fundamentalist who insists on the literal interpretation of his books must surely hold to that view because his house is built on literalism. One who sees the spirit behind the letter is closer to the unifying spirit, which brings men together in love and understanding. Truth is not a divider in the end. The second note. Enter Sue. Sue, you speak of standing atop the mountain with the world under your feet. Yes, said Sue. That's what you have taught me. Do you really stand there? In truth, yes. Then why do you cry, Sue? Why do you tell me of your insecurity and of the anguishes of living? You are my confessor, the lady laughed. Your confessions are statements that you don't stand atop Dashan yet. In the world, I don't seem to, but in reality, Dashan is the world, Sue. So why do you speak of standing atop the mountain with the world under your feet, claiming a dominion you haven't confirmed? I told you, that's what you've taught me to do. If I taught you that, dear lady, I lied. But that's what I thought you said. Am I not the pure and perfect child of God, even this instant? Asked Sue. You are, indeed, but the conscious mind and body is still crying and suffering on the face of the mountain, a mighty distance from the peak of confirmation. The fire crackled, and a band of pond frogs began their evening song. I don't understand. I simply don't understand. Sue's voice wavered, her eyes brimming with tears. I'm confused. I'm terribly confused, and I don't understand why my world doesn't conform to my knowledge. When we understand, we have the feel of Dashan under our feet, the old teacher said. What am I supposed to do? Sue asked angrily. Dear God, what am I supposed to do? Climb the mountain, as the old schools say. Claim your heritage, as the new schools say. Do both. Do both. The frogs started another chorus. The fire crackled. After a time, Han continued, we do more than the old schools require. We do more than the new churches require. It is not enough to turn from the old ways in relief, as we did when we first found subjectivism. We discover the balance above and beyond the two poles of view. There is a child in us who lives the balance. The child includes the parts, but is greater than their sum. The synergism takes us to Dashan's peak in fact, not profession. In fact, not in seeming. It takes us to understanding, and listen, Lady Sue. Then we stand with our feel of the world under our feet. What good has our professing done? None at all. None at all. Listen, we live our subjectivism on the objective scene. The night sky shone bright, the stars twinkled. Sue began to smile. The third note. The obvious truth that the exclusive idealist is so reluctant to admit is that he sits before the same campfire as the minister. The obvious truth that the minister is so reluctant to admit is that he can't escape the subjective nastiness he calls a sin and condemns. Most unpalatable of all to him is the thought that there are not separate entities outside himself in need of redemption. As far apart as these extremes seem, they are the same view observed from opposite ends. What is the answer to this dilemma? The soldier wanted to know. The answer the child gives is supremely simple. We claim our heritage right at the campfire, and then get up, get moving, and start climbing the mountain for as long as it appears we are to do it. We climb it and know we are making progress when our understanding grows and our human condition begins to confirm that growth. It is wonderful to claim we are there already, provided we are taking the enlightened, objective footsteps to get us there in conscious, tangible fact. Then we give that understanding, to which we have attained in actual living fact on the rugged mountain, to those following who are able to hear us. We have then struck the balance, the transcending middle ground between the old view and the new, subjectivism and objectivism, inside and outside, first and last, male and female, above and below. We slow our mouth down by writing in our journals until we have the words straight. When we get them straight, we live them around the campfire, not talk about them endlessly. Then the old teacher said, I don't believe one has the slightest knowledge of that middle ground until he has mentally fled the confinements of St. Doxy, Calvinopolis, and Metadelphia, climbed their confining, deadening walls, and taking a balance of these with him, has run alone and naked into the meadow beyond. There the child comes to us in our aloneness. The Christ child of ourself leads us by the hand to a new dominion right in the physical world decreed by realists and denied by idealists. It is senseless to claim the dominion until it has happened. The dominion of the child, unlike the orthodox or liberal views claim, transcends objective, subjective. It is beyond the purest religion and most absolute metaphysics, beyond it by leagues and leagues, to infinity and back again. Metaphysicians claim a knowledge of it and don't do anything. Churchmen do everything a man can do on the face of the mountain, but they claim no knowledge of it, as it. There is a balance, a middle ground, gentle Sue. The child takes us there quickly, but only if we do what the child asks us to do. The Christian Science Indians. The story goes like this. One Wednesday evening, a group of Christian Science Indians were sitting around a campfire giving testimonies. One of them fell asleep and toppled into the fire. Immediately, everyone began knowing the truth, while the Indian in the fire went up in smoke. He passed on. Across the campground, a group of Baptist Indians were sitting around their campfire, witnessing. One of them fell asleep and toppled into the fire. Immediately, everybody sprang into action, grabbed the unfortunate from all directions, and pulled him apart. He died also. Moral: somewhere between knowing the truth and doing nothing, and knowing nothing of subjectivism, or very little, and doing everything, there is a transcending action to take, living our subjectivism openly in the world. Metaphysics in youth. Young people hear of the wonders of subjective all-readiness, and it appeals to them. They want their dominion now, but for the most part are not willing to do what is necessary for realizing it. They talk much, but they surrender nothing. Subjectivism, half taught, half understood, caters to their greed by telling them they can have whatever they wish. Metaphysics and the elders. The older people hear of the wonders of all readiness and are willing to do anything to attain it, provided that action meets the standards of their belief system and includes a separate savior outside themselves. They talk much, but they surrender nothing. Objectivism caters to their belief of personality and separation. Solution: we live the subjective truth on the objective mountain. We surrender the old ways first and take on the new ways as the child gives them to us. We find the balance of the middle ground. The being of the subjectivist and the doing of the objectivist are not two separate entities. It is one action, life authenticating itself. It is being appearing as becoming, which equals 1. Sue coming to understand. 2. Sue seeing the child self. 3. Sue sitting before the campfire and tending the fire, just like everyone else sitting before the fire. It is Sue being in the world, but not of it. It is Sue doing something for her world. As the awareness of mind, I see my Sue as me, living her childlikeness. As William in the world, I confidently anticipate the confirmation of that singleness and see it, my subjective selfhood, lifted up. The fourth note of the chord, the fine distinction. If one isn't faithful to the appearing, then that appearing never appears as becoming. That is, our getting farther up the mountain. The seeker who turns his back on the appearing, disclaiming its reality, is half right, but the part that's half wrong diminishes it all. If one is faithful to the appearing, as if it were the only reality, that appearing never appears to be becoming. The religionist, who never disclaims the power and reality of matter, is half wrong, and the part that's half wrong diminishes the rest. Solution: we find the balance between the inside and outside and live that balance wherever we seem to be, so long as we seem to be there. That balance takes one beyond his metaphysics and religion, yet he never has to leave them to live the balance. He doesn't have to leave his job or his world. He doesn't have to claim a dominion he hasn't earned. He doesn't have to leave the world's warfare to be untouched by it. He doesn't have to do anything but be faithful to the appearing. Faithful to the appearing, he finds the appearing's anguish leaving him bit by bit, and leaving the world as well. I am faithful to the appearing when I deny its apparent authority, because nothing has real authority but good. Why doesn't the religionist see this? It is a mystery. I am faithful to the appearing when I do for the appearing whatever seems to be the best course of action for the good of mankind. Why do I act so? because so long as it seems I'm in the world, I strive to help my world. Why doesn't the subjectivist see this? It is a mystery. When I have acted in such a way here in the world, of people, places, and events, I have been given a course of action that blesses all mankind. When I have acted and been victorious here in the world of appearances, and told of my victory to those who wanted to know of it, I have been given greater victories. I conclude, therefore, that I am not finished with the living of balance until I've acted in the world by helping my others find it equally. The fifth note. Intellectualism gets very close to the truth of things, but doesn't quite make it without the heart. The heart gets very close to the truth of things, but doesn't quite make it in the world without the intellect, as anyone knows who, upon the discovery of the child heart, has tried to throw intellectualism out the window. Intellectualism's inadequacy is evident. Civilization out there nears gridlock and death. Yet, clearly the only way the heart can accept intellectualism, the world in ridiculous argument before the campfire, is with love. So, as the apostle wrote, without love, everything is lost. Here we come again to the importance of love, non-rejection. We stop rejecting the scene at hand. There is no escaping it for any length of time as long as it appears. We do as we were admonished. Watch it, understand it, and tend it faithfully. Be a faithful witness. We do that to the best of our ability until the end of our days in front of the fire. Metadelphians know precious little of this, just as religionists know precious less about subjectivism. If we remain faithful to this limited scene of contradistinction and argument, what wonder might be in store for us where the illimitable light doesn't ever waver or cast shadow? Unfaithful to it, we find our suffering goes on. Personal journal entry. There is a river down the road of time, and I will be there soon. After the long trek through the hard, dry places, the river is welcome. I put down my burdens at the river of life and rest a while from the tribulations of the worrisome world. In the mind's eye, I go to my river often. Along its peaceful banks are special places where memories are soft and embracing. My heart floats lightly on that river, oblivious to the cares of the dry world, mindful of nothing but the beauty at hand, no heaviness anywhere. Now, far away in an alien land, I think of the river and take myself there. At this moment, the thinking of it is as grand as the presence of it, because I can leave out the anguished world's bittersweet, the fear, the sounds of quarreling. What do I take with me as I return? I take my world, because it exists here within the consciousness of me. As this moment of timeless being, I have just the tender world without the heat and anguish of time's learning. Every good and decent thing within me rises and stands as a solitary. Kindness and love fill my river to overflowing and bathe my world in joy. It is the same for every man.